Headed down the shore? Skip the hassle. Let Beach Caddy handle the heavy lifting. Bellhop and beach cart rentals are available in Ocean City, Sea Isle, Avalon, Stone Harbor, and Wildwood. Use the promo code Jimbo for 10% off bellhop and cart rentals. Beach Caddy takes the stress out of your Jersey Shore trip. Go to beachcaddy.app. Use the promo code Jimbo for 10% off your move-in, move-out bellhop service and beach cart rentals. Best beach carts at the Jersey Shore. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for July 23rd, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy Humpday to everyone out there. And let's get right into it. Great win for the Phillies yesterday, 4-1. Very solid. Cristopher Sanchez was absolutely outstanding, showing why he should have been an all-star. Pitched a complete game, 4-hitter. Tied his career high, 12 strikeouts, was just absolutely outstanding. The crowd was electric. I don't know if they were ready for the Nelly concert after the fact or whether they were cheering for the team. But either way, solid win. Schwarber went deep again. We had a Max Kepler sighting. He's going deep. Maybe this is going to be a sign of things to come now that he knows he's directly in the hot seat. Has to be some kind of a major league record. Second straight game, there was a catcher's interference called, and it's a shame because Bryce should have gotten credit, I think, with stealing home plate, but it is what it is. Phils move on, win this series against Boston. Good bounce back after stumbling out of the blocks last week against the Angels, but the Mets did win as well, so we're half game up on them. And this is really going to be like Rocky, Apollo, Creed in both Rocky 1 and 2. These teams really are. As much as I hate to admit it, as much as I hate the Mets, this is going to come down to the wire. And both teams are going to go back and forth. So, Dave, I told you yesterday, it's your move. But the Phils look for the sweep today. Jesus Luzardo is on the mound for the Phillies. And everybody's talking about, and I did go on the rant yesterday about going all in, but I'm going to double down on, I'm not even sure what. We have a Bryson Stott problem. I saw a stat yesterday on Twitter where his average has gone down every month this season. It seems like every time he's up to bat, he's just hitting a fly ball or a pop-up. I don't know if he's injured or what. I mean, defensively, he's outstanding. But so is Johan Rojas, and he can't hit. And Stott is dangerously close to Johan Rojas, the range right now. So not sure what's going to happen with that. I don't know if that means we need to have Edmundo playing every day or what. But, man, Stott, we have a Bryson Stott problem. And I think it's kind of masked with all the other maybe issues or things going on with this team, but we have a Bryson Stott problem. Maybe it's a little too soon to go this far with it, but I don't think he's it. I don't think he's the guy, and it's a shame because he's outstanding on defense, but we'll see kind of what happens with that as we go along as well. But doubling down from yesterday's rant, Dave Dombrowski, you need to go all in. And this yesterday was a perfect example of that. Your starting pitching is too good to just let this thing ride out or make some fringe moves like you have in the past few off seasons. So, Dave, I'm telling you, begging you, go back to your roots and be the old school Dave Dombrowski that makes big moves. And we'll deal with, and if your scouting team and your farm development team is where it should be, we'll be all right. We will be okay. But trade deadline is in roughly a week, so we'll see what happens as we move down the stretch. As I mentioned yesterday, Eagles reported to training camp. I don't think there was any surprise absences or anything like that. They seemed locked in and ready to go. Their first practice is today. And I'd like to take a minute to just say thank you to Jeffrey Lurie. And we laughed at him a few years back when he said the Eagles are the gold standard of the NFL. And I guess it's more than a few years back. But he was right. Just with the culture and philosophy and all of the stuff that he's brought since he's bought the team, it's not necessarily chaotic. It's not necessarily dysfunctional. And sure, there's been moments with Chip Kelly. You had the Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson saga. But he's able to move on and correct that and really get the guys he wants for the culture. Unlike our friends down in Dallas. So I mentioned yesterday the Jerry Jones thing where he essentially threw Micah Parsons and Dak Prescott under the bus for being injured. Well, yesterday Micah Parsons, flanked by Trayvon Diggs, had an impromptu media availability after practice where essentially fired back and said, yes, I'm being patient. Patience is a virtue, blah, 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 blah. Essentially, that is why he had Trayvon Diggs there. Diggs is like, I keep telling him, you're the best player in football. You need to just be patient. You'll get yours. You'll get yours. But he made an interesting comment, which I'm really, like I said, this is, yes, we have this going on with the Sixers, but it's not as entertaining with the Sixers because it's right here in our backyard. So he said, I don't know. I look at guys like Max Crosby. And the Raiders essentially said, we need you, we want you, we don't want you to go anywhere. And they paid him right away. But here I am having to wait, and I'm paraphrasing here. So stay tuned for As the Cowboys Turn, as we'll continue to update this. And again, it's entertaining, more so than anything. And Jerry, please stay healthy, go to the Mayo Clinic, whatever you need to do. Don't ever leave us. But this is... Again, we're not going to get much probably out of Eagles training camp as far as storylines or anything like that, which is good. So we can keep an eye on our friends down south and just laugh at the amusement that is the Dallas Cowboys. All right, the Union do not play tonight, but it is the MLS All-Star Game, and they'll be well represented. Jacob Glesnes, Kai Wagner, and Ty Baribeau will be on the MLS All-Star team as they take on the All-Stars from La Liga in Mexico. Kind of a fun way midsummer for the MLS. And then after this, it's a sprint to the end for the Union, who are clinging to second place in the Eastern Conference. All right, let's knock out some housekeeping. Yesterday worked out well with the new platform. I have to say I'm pleased, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago that pardon the dust as we get things kind of situated for the fall and football season. But as you can see, I do need to kind of clean up my background. You can see my clothes for my workout later. You can see the kids stuff over here. So I got to work on that. But you may have noticed new social media clips, this new platform. Essentially takes what would take me 20 to 40 minutes to do, makes the clips for me, AI generated. It's awesome. So you will see some of that. Highlights will still stay. But overall, I thought the sound quality was great. The best it's been since I've been doing this podcast. I felt it was one of the more polished things. So as I'm playing around with the new recording platform, you might see some fun things. So the best way to stay in the loop is to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mott on Twitter and TikTok, on Instagram at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott. Lots of shorts are going to be posted on there. Continue to spread the word. Had one of our most viewed and listened to days of all time yesterday. So it's just a matter of spreading the word. And if you are a new listener, I haven't done this in a while, welcome. We are glad to have you here. You're coming in at a great time. Lots of good things on the horizon as we gear up for football. Again, I'm going to be doing the Eagles pregame show with my brother. We're about this close to giving you the name of the show. We have a recording schedule set up. I'll kind of give you a rundown in the next few weeks on what to expect with that. Of course, we're going to be previewing the Eagles, answering questions, and taking a look at the team as we go through August. I also mentioned in August we were going to do the top 5 for the first 25. I know a lot of people have been doing this. It's something I've been sitting on since last November, looking at the best time to do it. And I figured August, as we end the summer, gear up for football season, was the best time to kind of reflect and give you my top 5 list on 31 different things, believe it or not, which is a lot of research, a lot of work went into that. So stay tuned for that in August. We are finishing up our greatest individual season in Philly sports history tournament. Today we have our final regional semifinal matchup, and from here on out, it's all big games after today. So thank you for everybody who's been voting on that. But again, best way to stay in the loop with all the new things that will be coming out is follow me on social media and subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, yesterday's trivia question. I asked you, what is the Phillies' longest losing streak in club history, and what year was it? It is also the longest modern-day losing streak in Major League Baseball history. Back in 1961, the Phillies lost 23 straight games. Man, be nice to go on a nice little winning streak here. But if you're keeping score at home, like I know a lot of you do, the longest in Major League Baseball is 26 back in 1889. But the Phillies, the longest modern-day losing streak, 1961, where they lost 23 games. Packing up the whole crew for a week down the shore? Don't waste your first day dragging bags and beach chairs. Let Beach Caddy do the work. With bellhop service for move-ins and move-outs, plus beach cart rentals in Ocean City, Avalon, Sea Isle, Stone Harbor, and Wildwood, they've got your back from driveway to dune. Stress less, relax more. Book now at beachcaddy.app. Use the promo code Jimbo for 10% off your bellhop or cart rental services. Beach Caddy, because vacation should start when you get there. Best beach carts on the Jersey Shore. Book now at beachcaddy.app. Use the promo code Jimbo for 10% off your order, and let Beach Caddy take the stress out of your vacation. All right, don't forget that Beach Caddy promo code is now 15% off for the rest of the summer. I'm telling you, these guys are great, so go check them out if you're heading down to the Jersey Shore. Even if it's for a weekend, get one of the beach carts and take 15% off. All right, it is Wednesday. And as we do every Wednesday, it's What If Wednesday, brought to you by Lotwin. Go to lotwin.com to get your 3D custom hype chain. Fantasy football is right around the corner. That means you can get a good chain for the winner, good chain for the loser. I know everybody has different things they do for the loser in their fantasy football league. I'm in a league where the last place team has to wear a dress, but get these 3D custom hype chains. They're great. Go to lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD to take 10% off of your order. All right, so What If Wednesday? And 40 years ago this month, the original USFL, I know there's another version that combined with the UFL, I think it is, and whatnot, but the original USFL folded 40 years ago this month. I think didn't necessarily fold, but played its last game 40 years ago this month. And for those of you who don't know, the USFL was a spring-summer league that was originally intended not necessarily to compete directly head-to-head with the NFL, but really to kind of build a footing and give folks a chance to watch and play football in the spring and summer. Attracted a lot of the biggest college stars. A lot of the big stars from the 80s and 90s got their start in the USFL. Doug Flutie played in the USFL. Jim Kelly, Herschel Walker, Reggie White played in the USFL. Sam Mills. So a lot of good players were playing in the USFL. And they had a solid blueprint from their inception, where they had a salary cap. They wanted to slowly expand and basically do it the right way and build up a fan base, build up a following, build up a sort of strong foundation and not get too far ahead of themselves. But as usually happens when you're dealing with a lot of rich white dudes who have a lot of money, they get greedy. And the two guys that were the greediest were Eddie Einhorn and Donald Trump, both who were owners. And they said, screw it. Let's compete directly with the NFL. And you know kind of how the rest goes. their hope was Einhorn and Trump were hoping for a merger with the NFL, basically to tie in and get the NFL money for their teams. Ultimately, it did not work out, and the league folded. I mentioned the new USFL that came out in 2022. But for What If Wednesday, what if guys like Einhorn and Trump were not greedy? What if they had followed the original plan? What if they had stuck to the salary cap and really did a grassroots following? Could the USFL had worked, and ultimately could some of the teams have merged with the NFL? And we're going to look at this from a Philadelphia perspective. I think a lot depending on the market of where these teams were. But at this time, in 1984, the Eagles almost, like, they were in Arizona. It took a lot of work from the city of Philadelphia, the fan base, and everybody really clamoring and going to the NFL. The NFL was involved in this, the city of Philadelphia. But Leonard Tost had a deal in place to take the Eagles to Arizona. So there would have been a spot for a Philadelphia team, and that was the Philadelphia Stars. And they were one of the best teams also in the league. They went to the championship in 83, won the championship in 84. They moved to Baltimore in 85 due to them wanting to switch to a fall schedule. There was really no place for them to play between the Eagles, the Phillies, and Penn. There were no available dates for them to play in any of the stadiums. And pretty much at that point, I know Live Aid was there in 1985, but JFK Stadium needed too much work to be able to safely house, I guess, a professional football team. So there was just no place. So they moved to Baltimore and won the title again in 85. So the Philadelphia Stars, or Philadelphia Baltimore Stars, were one of the better teams in the USFL. So and this is a very convoluted way to kind of look at it, but I think it's interesting because it's 40 years and it's one of those things that we tend to forget about. But I do think some of those teams could have merged into the NFL had they stayed the course, had they played it well. And I think it's 100% plausible and feasible that the Philadelphia Stars could have been the new team in Philly had the Eagles moved to Arizona. And I think if the USFL had played its cards better and not gone directly against the NFL so soon and stuck the course of the original plan of the league, I almost think it would have been easier for Leonard Tost to say, I don't care what you're going to offer me here. I'm moving to Arizona. But again, there's lots of moving parts with that. That's assuming the Eagles did move to Arizona. But the Stars they had attendance. They averaged about 20 to 40,000 fans per game, whether it was at the Vet or Franklin Field. The USFL had TV deals with ABC and ESPN. But again, I think they went too much too soon because they got greedy. But I do think some of those teams could have, and we could be looking at a whole different NFL now. There could be 36 teams. There could be 40 teams depending on the markets, because a lot of the markets that the USFL was in ended up getting expansion teams. So again, it's one of those things to look at, but what if the USFL had worked out? What would that have meant for the Eagles? Let me know your thoughts on that. Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest. But I do think there would have been, by the time the Eagles were thinking about moving to Arizona, the USFL had already shown their hands and essentially didn't do it the right way. So it was the city saw that, and they couldn't have no football team, especially the NFL, which was the big man on campus at the time. But I do think it's very, very feasible that we could have had the Eagles in Arizona and the Philadelphia Stars. Sam Mills played for the Stars. Jim Mora was the head coach, and we all know both of them went on to have great success in New Orleans as both a coach, and Sam Mills is a Hall of Fame linebacker. And yes, that Jim Mora, playoffs. But let me know your thoughts on the USFL. Could it have coexisted? Could it have ultimately led to a merger? I think it's feasible. I really do. But you had guys like Einhorn and Trump who just got very, very greedy, and instead of staying the course, because the original plan was to slow play it, gradually build up a following, fan base, get that strong foundation, and then greed always wins out in the end. But let me know your thoughts on the USFL. July 3rd, 23rd now. All right, we got a couple things to talk about today, Phillies related. First, let's go back to 1974. And on this day in 1974, Mike Schmidt played in his first ever All-Star game out in Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh. He came off the bench, pinch hit, and then got in the field for Ron Say. He had 2 plate appearances, walked twice, and scored a run. Larry Bowa started at shortstop for the National League that year. Dave Cash and Steve Carlton were also named to the All-Star game. Cash did play. Steve Carlton did not, as the National League beat the American League on this day 7-2. Steve Garvey named the MVP. And then fast forward to 1990. And on this day, I love when it's Phillies-Mets. But the Phillies beat the Mets 7-4 after being no hit for 5 1/3 innings by Frank Viola. So the Phillies were trailing 3-0 going into the bottom of the 6th. A Mets error, 2 walks, and a ground out made it 3-1. Another walk loaded the bases, and an up step Dickie Thon with the bases loaded. Phillies down 3-1. No hits in the game for them. Broke up the no-hitter. Gave the Phillies the lead with a grand slam off of Frank Viola. It was the second time in 2 years Dickie Thon broke up a no-hitter. Back July 4th in 1989, the year before, we talked about it on this podcast. He broke up Tom Browning's perfect game in the 9th. Tommy Herr then added a 2-run triple in the bottom of the 8th to account for the Phillies' other 2 runs. Darryl Ackerfield's got the win that day, and former Met Roger McDowell got the save. But it was Dickie Thon breaking up Frank Viola's no-hitter with a grand slam. The Phillies went from being no-hit to winning the game 7-4 on this day in 1990. Good old Dickie Thon. Had so much potential, and then he got hit in the head with a ball, and then his entire career trajectory just changed after that. He had some eyesight problems and things like that. But on this day, he was the hero, breaking up the no-hitter with a grand slam. That does lead us to today's trivia question. We talked about Mike Schmidt playing in his first All-Star game, Dave Cash, Larry Bowa, as well as Steve Carlton. But who are the top 5 Phillies in All-Star appearances? So in other words, what Phillies have made the All-Star game the most times? Hit me up on the Discord channel. First link in the description. Get your answers in. But I'm looking for the top 5 here because I do think number 1 would be too easy for everyone. But who are the top 5 Phillies in All-Star appearances? Get that answer in. Any social media, Discord, Back to the Future voice and text line. All of it is fair game. And then finally today, our greatest individual season in Philly sports history tournament. Yesterday, the Sixers regional final is set, and it was Moses Malone from 82-83 knocking out Wilt Chamberlain from 66-67 to take the win with 83% of the vote, setting up another match with Moses Malone, this time from 61-62 when he played for the Philadelphia Warriors. That should be a doozy of a matchup. But actually, all of the regional finals will be doozies of matchups. But today, our final regional semifinal out of the Eagles region pits the number 1 seed Saquon Barkley from 2024 up against Carson Wentz, the number 5 seed from 2017, with a matchup against Reggie White looming on the horizon for the winner. Saquon last year, we all know it's fresh in our mind, over 2,000 rushing yards, 15 rushing touchdowns, averaged an outstanding 125 per game, added 33 catches for 278 yards and 2 touchdowns, was outstanding leading up to the Super Bowl, almost 500 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, had 2 200-yard games in total, both of them against the Rams, once in the regular season and once in the playoffs, setting the Eagles team record. He was Offensive Player of the Year, Pro Bowler, All-Pro, obviously won the Super Bowl and was more of a decoy as the Chiefs tried to shut him down and dared Jalen Hurts to beat them, which for those keeping score at home, he did. Taking on Carson Wentz from 2017, played in 13 games, led the Eagles to an 11-2 record, threw for almost 3,300 yards, 33 touchdowns against 7 interceptions, added almost 300 rushing yards, 27 rushes for first downs, was named to the Pro Bowl, was AP All-Second Team, third in the MVP voting, would have won it had he not got hurt, and obviously the Eagles did go on to win the Super Bowl at that season as well, and I say it every time Carson Wentz's name comes up, no matter what you think of him after the injury, the Eagles do not win that Super Bowl without Carson Wentz. But now it's your turn. Whose season was better? Saquon in 2024, Carson in 2017. Get your vote in any way you can. Send me a smoke signal, carrier pigeon, whatever you got to do to get that vote in. Be sure to like, subscribe, review, comment. Getting a lot more comments on YouTube. So if you're listening, want to give your thoughts on what I'm talking about, leave a comment. All that other good stuff helps us trick the algorithm. And then obviously don't forget about our friends at the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network. This Day in Philly Sports History is a part of the network. Very happy to be a part of that. Go to theclashingconferences.com to see how you can join. You don't need a podcast to join. If you just have a lot to say, they're always looking for new members, and you can get on any of their podcasts year-round, whether it's football, baseball, random things, basketball. They got you covered. So go to clashingconferences.com to see how you can get involved. Get your vote in for the Eagles regional semifinal between Saquon Barkley and Carson Wentz. Whose season was better? On this day in 1990, Dickie Thon broke up Frank Viola's no-hitter with a grand slam in the bottom of the sixth. Phillies go on to win that game 7-4 against the Mutts. It's always good when the Mets lose. And then in 1974, Mike Schmidt made his All-Star debut, having 2 plate appearances, walking twice, and scoring a run as the National League wins 7-2. Also, let me know your thoughts for What If Wednesday. It's one of those ones, it's not 100% Philly-based, but the USFL was big in Philly, and there is, like I said, the Philadelphia Stars were one of the better teams, and the Eagles were almost in Arizona, so it certainly could have gone the other way. So let me know your thoughts on that. We'll have more on the Phillies tomorrow as they look to sweep the Red Sox. Of course, the Eagles open up training camp. We'll update you on how the Union Stars do in the All-Star Game. And then tomorrow is Thursday. That means it's Throwback Thursday, where we take a look back at something that either happened, a player, something you may have forgotten. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for July 23rd, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.